Hello, Mrs. Ehlke here. Today we are going to be working on making some God's Eye crafts. These are from the Mexican culture. They are spiritual items. Notice the name God's Eye. And they are thought to kind of protect people from future uncertainties. So if you had these around, they offered protection. And these go way back. They are common in Mexican culture and the indigenous people from that time. And these are just two of the different ways that you can make them. This is the generic way. It's supposed to be a cross, and then of course the woven yarn around it. And then I add a little loop so that you can hang it up. Back in the Mexican culture, it wasn't uncommon for fathers to make one of these when they had a new baby, and they would put a line of color for every year that that child lived up to age 5, and that would be their special God's Eye. So today we're going to do this. We will be using some popsicle sticks or craft sticks and some yarn, and then obviously there's an option if you want to get a little fancy and add some beads or something like that, you can do that as well. So follow along and let's make God's eyes together. For today's project, we'll be using some yarn. I like to use the ones that have different colors. I also have some craft sticks that I'll be using. You can also use like straws, or you can even go outside and use like sticks from your yard. Lots of different options there. I will be using scissors as well, and we can even use beads later as an embellishment. So the first step is to get 2 pieces of stick or popsicle sticks. I'm using 2 craft sticks here, and I'm putting them together, and I'm going to lay them on top of my yarn, and I'm going to tie a knot just like I would when I am tying a shoe. So crossing the yarn over like that, and then I'm going to put the end through the middle to create a knot, and then I will pull tight like so that I have tied a knot around both sticks. In case you missed it, I'm going to put my sticks on top of my yarn, and then I am going to tie a knot by crossing my yarn and then putting the end through the center, just like you would when you're tying a shoelace. I'm going to pull that tight so I now have a knot around my sticks. Now I want to do one more knot, so it's actually a double knot. So I'm going to make another loop, and then I'm going to put the end through the center of the loop and then pull to make a second knot. So now I have a knot, double knot tied around my 2 sticks. If you want to, you can trim the end a little bit with scissors. I don't go super short, just make it a little bit shorter like that. Next, I'm going to move my sticks to make a cross shape. So here's my cross made out of wood, and then I'm going to hold my cross with my non-dominant hand, so my left hand, and then I'm going to wrap the string or the yarn around with my right hand. I'm going to go around a stick and then turn, go around another stick, turn, go around the next stick, turn, go around the next stick, and turn. And I'm going to keep on doing this, trying to keep the yarn pretty tight and continuing in the same direction around my cross. Each time I'm turning it, and then I'm moving on to wrap around the next stick. So I'm going to speed this up so you can kind of get the idea as I continue to wrap my string around my cross. To make my God's eye. Now you can also pre-cut just like a large piece of string instead of staying attached to the yarn. And then if you run out, you can just tie the ends together and keep going. All right, I've run out of space. I only have a little bit of space left on my sticks, so I need to tie off my project. So before I do that, I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to leave a little bit of extra so that I can make a loop later. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it around my final stick here. So I'm just going to wrap it around, and then I'm going to use one of the last rows here of yarn, and I'm going to slide my end underneath this little row to kind of help hold it in place, and then I'll put it again through itself to kind of create a knot. So there's a little loop there. I'm going to put the string through the loop, and now I have a nice little knot that will keep my project from unraveling. Now you could leave it like this. I like to add a little loop on the top, so I'm going to tie another knot by holding the two pieces together like that, and then just wrapping it around like my finger to make a loop, and then pulling both ends through to create a knot towards the base of my stick there. And now I have a loop so that I can hang my God's eye up somewhere. You could use this as an ornament like on your Christmas tree, or you could hang it up like in your room or from a chandelier or whatever. They make really nice decorations. So there's my basic God's eye craft. That is the simple way to do it. Now I wanted to show you something a little bit fancier in case you wanted to challenge yourself to go above and beyond the basic steps. This time I'm going to use different colors of yarn. I may add some beads towards the end. And then I'm also going to be using 3 sticks instead of 2, so that I'll actually have like 6 little sections pointing away from my center here. So I'm going to start in the same way with my 3 sticks all together. And I'm going to start by tying 2 knots just like I did the last time. I'm going to put all of the sticks together and then lay them on top of the end of my white string this time. And I'm going to tie a knot, a single knot just like I would my shoe. And then I'm going to make it a double knot by tying another one right on top of it and pulling tight. I'm going to trim the extra yarn off again from my end. You can see my knot is nice and tight. It's holding my 3 sticks together here. I've got a little bit of extra that I will snip with my scissors. And now I'm going to spread out my sticks. I won't have a cross shape this time because I have 3. It looks kind of more like a snowflake almost. So I'm trying to kind of spread them out so that they're equally spaced. They can kind of slide a little bit, so you can use your hands to help them so that they stay put. I'm holding them tight with my left hand, and then I'm wrapping with my right. And it's the same concept. You still just continue to go around each stick, but you just have more sticks to wrap this time. So they move a little bit, especially at the beginning because they're not super tight, but if you kind of keep that string nice and tight right away, that can prevent them from moving too much. I'm just wrapping around my sticks here. and continuing with my God's Eye project. Now in this one, I do want to change colors in the midway, so I wanted to show you how I change into different colors. So I've stopped with the white. I like how much I have so far. Now I'm going to cut a little bit farther away so that I have enough room to tie a knot. And I'm going to take my other color, which is my reddish pink color here. I'm going to put the two ends together, wrap them around my finger, and then just pull both ends through that hole and then pull it tight. I try to keep the knot pretty close to the ends of the yarn so that I don't have tons of extra yarn hanging off. Now that I've got a knot there, I can keep on wrapping my yarn around my project. So I've got my white center. Now as I do this, it changes to the red. And I continue with my project. Now if your knot ends up being on the front of your project, you may just have to kind of work with it or play around with it to try to get it to go into the back. It may just be pulling tighter in some areas or kind of making sure that other parts of the yarn cover the knot. But you can kind of work with it to make sure that those knots stay in the back of your project. So I'm going to go back and forth a little bit between colors on this. So I've got my variegated yarn that changes colors, and I'm going to do a couple rows of that now. But then I do want to switch back to the white and add a little row of white again. So whenever I'm ready to change colors, again, I just cut the string kind of far away from my project so that I have room to tie the knot. I put both pieces together. I wrap them both around my finger, and then I put them both through the center of that loop so that I have a knot. Pull tight, try to keep it close to the end of the string, and continue to wrap around my project, trying to keep it so that it's nice and tight. Going around my project. So you can see here my knot is on the front, so I'm just kind of pulling a little bit harder to try to make sure that it goes around the back, and that was able to fix it right away. And I will continue wrapping. I've run out of space, so again I need to tie off my project. You can also trim some of these extra pieces later if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and wrap my string around that last piece. I'm going to cut a little bit extra so that I can add a loop at the end. And I'll wrap it around my last stick here. And then I'm going to tuck it through my last layer of string and then pull it through that loop too, so that it kind of makes the knot to tie off my God's Eye. Like that. Now you could finish like this and just add a single loop just like we did last time. But I wanted to show you that you can also add a few beads to this end here. So I have a couple different beads I wanted to add. I think I'm going to add about 7. And I'm just pulling the yarn through the beads and then putting them on the top section here of my God's Eye. And if your yarn frays a little bit, you can always trim it so that it will still go through these little beads.
Sometimes it's hard to get it through and you may just have to kind of twist it in your fingers a little bit. Sometimes that helps. So I'm putting 7 beads on, and then I am going to tie it off again, just like I did the last one. You could also like add little decorations to the ends of your wood by maybe coloring with like Sharpies or something on the tips, or maybe drawing some symbols or something there. That's an option as well. So there's my beads, and then I'm going to go ahead and tie a loop at the end by just putting both ends together, wrapping them around my finger, and then pulling that loop through that center there so that I have a nice loop to hang my God's eye. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this project, and I can't wait to see what you come up with as well. Have a good one.